It's not laziness, it's not procrastination. Really, it's just a nervous system that has been overly stressed and strung out and just needs to heal. For instance, when I moved from our moldy house to our new house, um, my brain was wired that it's not safe. Houses aren't safe. Buildings aren't safe. Nowhere is it safe. I'm always on the lookout. And then once that fight or flight response was able to relax and use those energy and those resources to go towards healing and recovery.
After 25 years of relentless symptoms, lupus, mold sensitivity, multiple food and chemical sensitivities, Lori Clemmons had tried everything: specialists, extreme diets, endless protocols, and still the horrible symptoms remained. And doctors told her that there was no hope for recovery, that she would just have to learn to live with this. But thankfully, she didn't give up. And finally, something turned things around for her. Something so simple, most people dismiss it entirely, yet it changed everything for her. If you or someone you love is facing a complex chronic condition, then you are in the right place. My name is Raelan Agle, and I've interviewed over 250 people who've gone from hopeless to thriving. And the patterns are clear. Recovery is possible, and the common threads are often hiding in plain sight. Today, Lori joins us from the beautiful Santa Cruz Mountains here in California to share how she reclaimed her life after decades of suffering and why, with the right approach, recovery doesn't have to take decades. Our brain and body are wired for health if we know how to work with them. So, this is one of those conversations that might just change the way that you see your symptoms and your future. So, let's dive in. Lori, incredible to have you here. Thanks for doing
Thank you
this.
so much for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, me too, so much. So I know we're going to dive into a lot of stuff and the work that you're doing today, but always helpful if you can tell us a bit about your personal journey with chronic illness and what led you to the work that you're doing now. How did you get here?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. Yeah, this actually started quite a few years ago, back in about 1989, actually. Started getting what I thought was a flu. And the symptoms just kept getting more and more to where I ended up bedbound for about a year and a half. So, fatigue,
Mhm.
brain fog, chronic pain, just a lot of sleeping. I was sleeping sometimes 20 hours a day and having to wait for my husband to come home to fix me food because I couldn't get out of bed. Um, we went to doctors, did all the tests, everything looked fine. And I had a doctor finally tell me, we don't know what it is. We don't think you're going to die. So just get used to it. And so
Oh my
that
God.
was, it was pretty discouraging. After about a year and a half of being bedbound, started making a few changes here and there, started eating better. We actually moved out of what we found out later was a moldy home. And over time, started getting, life was a little more manageable, but still really hard of just trying to keep up. Um, and after about 27 years, finally came across self directed neuroplasticity. At that point, we had just moved from from our the house that my kids had grown up in for 27 years, and we had moved to a. We found out it was moldy. Moved to a beautiful, clean house. It tested wonderful. This is the place I was going to heal, and I got worse.
Wow.
And again, the testing. And when I came across neuroplasticity, I realized we had left everything behind in the old moldy house, packed up the kids, the dog, left everything. But what I had brought with me was that mindset of the world is a dangerous place that I had gotten in all of that. And so my limbic system was triggered. We moved into the new house. My limbic system found other things to trigger with. So became very sensitive to chemicals, became sensitive to most foods. I couldn't leave the house anymore because I was just so reactive to people's shampoo or deodorant. and so became homebound at that point for a few years. And then once I started really learning about neuroplasticity, putting the tools into practice, I started amazingly seeing results. Started being able to get outside, start walking, start going places, going to stores. What a treat to go to stores. Eating out at restaurants, all of these amazing things. And eventually was able to be able to do everything. I'm as healthy as I was before I got that first illness back years ago. So it's just been amazing. So just incredibly
Wow.
grateful for the tools that are out there now.
So I'm wondering because it's interesting as you hear the experience you had with your doctor, and it's something that I've heard from many people. And someone recently that I interviewed phrased it in a way that really got me thinking that the message a lot of us get is, I don't know what's wrong with you, so you're never going to get better.
Yes.
Which is such a unfortunate message to be sending to people. I'm sure with the best of intentions coming from their training, but so how did you get that message and still feel like, no, I'm going to get better, even though the doctor, the professional doesn't know what to do. I'm going to figure it out. Like, where do you think that came from that you had that
I
determination?
didn't at first. And I went through
Mm,
so many of those years just like, okay, I just got to get through it. I just got to work harder. If I want any kind of a
yeah.
life, it's going to be hard work. And that was just like, oh, everything was hard. And I think
Mm,
I finally got to a point, my youngest child graduated high school. And so it's like, okay, my job here is done. I mean, yeah, for the most part, what am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do now? And I started just thinking about, you know what? I'm tired of the fight. I'm just gonna have fun. I'm gonna find something that brings me joy. Started doing a little bit of artwork, started doing, a few of this and a few of that, tried to get outside, just walking to the mailbox and started trying to do more and started learning meditation, learning how to relax. And the funny thing was is I wasn't doing any kind of formal neural retraining practice, but I noticed my symptoms were getting better. The more I focused on calming my nervous system and finding joy, finding purpose, connecting
yeah.
with people, um, the more my nervous system was able to start regulating and coming down from that fight or flight that it had been in for so many years.
I wish I could string together clips. I'm sure I could. AI technology would probably do it for me. But of all the interviews I've done lately where people explain the turning point to be
Mhm.
something related to
Yeah,
joy and living
yeah,
again, like just either I gave up and then I
yeah,
started to get better, or one woman said, I think I never gave up, which is what kept me sick so long. I was so fixated on healing every
yeah,
day. Just the word joy is coming up in every
yeah.
interview. So important. That is
Yeah,
incredible.
I remember one instance in particular, we were supposed to go out for the day, and I couldn't, just could not. And I told my husband, I can't drive. My head was just hurting, everything was hurting. And I said, I just need to go sit in the woods. Can you drive me to the woods? The poor guy. He's a trooper. So he drove me to the woods. He found a picnic bench and sat there. And I just walked a few steps and then I'd have to sit, walk a few steps and sit. And it really dawned on me that, wow, this is beautiful here. And I've been so wrapped up in what I don't have that I've missed out on all of this. And just really enjoying that time in nature, enjoying just being present was so huge rather than again focusing on what wasn't going the way that I wanted it to.
Enjoying being
Yeah.
present. I want to get that embroidered on a pillow. I think that's such an insightful
Yeah.
thing. It really just pulls it together in such a simple thing.
And our
Create a
culture,
life, create a space, create a head space where you enjoy being
yeah,
present.
our culture, we tend to not slow down for that. We just tend to go, go,
No.
go, do more,
Yes.
have more. Um, and so we don't very often take that time to just be present and go sit in the backyard or just go pet the dog and enjoy the moment. Or it's even relationships and friends. are just so nourishing when we can slow down and really enjoy that present moment.
Yeah, I was reading recently. There's a positive psychology professor named Corey Muscara who I adore, and he was talking about how for many people, our nervous system has gotten to a state where calm feels like a threat.
Yes.
When we slow down, we get all these dangerous warnings like, no, no, keep scanning,
Yeah.
what, keep moving. Like you're not safe if you're still. You can't just sit and do nothing. Your whole life is at
Yeah.
risk if you stop. And it really clicked for me. I thought, wow, that's been me for most of my
Yeah.
life. Still has felt like a
Yeah.
threat. Nope, this is not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I'll be
Yeah.
happy when I get my to-do list
Yeah.
done. I'll be happy when I finally get the kitchen clean. I'll be happy
Yeah.
when, rather than, no, wait a minute. I can be happy now.
Which can translate to our nervous system.
Yes.
I'll be safe when
Yes.
I finish this degree. I'll be safe when I have this much money in the bank, so don't stop working. I'll be
Right.
safe when, whatever it is, I have the perfect body. Get your butt to the gym. All of those
Right.
things.
And then with chronic illness, I'll be happy
Yeah.
when I get rid of these headaches. I'll be happy
Yeah.
when I have enough energy to go to the store by myself. I'll be happy when I can eat normal foods, rather
Yeah.
than just being present and finding that joy now. And even joy can feel dangerous to a limbic
Yeah.
system that's not used to it. And so, even just taking the baby steps, just being able to feel present can be a step,
Yeah.
rather than jumping all the way to
Yeah.
joy, and just really helping to guide that limbic system toward that joy.
So you mentioned self-directed neuroplasticity.
Yes.
What exactly does that mean? What does that look like?
So, neuroplasticity is just how the brain wires itself based on our behaviors, our thoughts, our emotions. And what the brain does that automatically based on school. We go to school, our relationships, the things that we do, the things that we think about. Um, Self directed means that we can have input into the direction that we go. So, for instance, if I wanted to be a great athlete, then I can train not only my body, but I can train my brain to be able to do that through that neuroplasticity, being able to build those neural connections to be able to take on those challenges. Um, when we have been through life, the brain wires in certain ways. When we've been through things like a chronic illness, maybe some kind of childhood traumas, whether it's a large trauma or just some relatively minor traumas, they wire in our brain when we're safe and when we're not. And so self directed neuroplasticity is then being able to recognize the wires that we have, and then to be able to direct those wires and change them in the way that we want them to go. For instance, when I moved from our moldy house to our new house, um, my brain was wired after years of life that it's not safe. Houses aren't safe. Buildings aren't safe. Nowhere is it safe. I'm always on the lookout for things that are going to hurt me. I was able to recognize that and then start directing those thoughts and rewiring my brain so that it was then able to find calm and to find peace so that it could then relax. And then once that limbic system, that fight or flight response, was able to relax, then all that energy that had been tied up, the energy and the resources that had been tied up in fear, now my body was able to relax and use those energy and those resources to go towards healing and recovery. At that point, I was able to start physically feeling the effects of working with that neuroplasticity.
You mentioned the limbic
Yeah.
system, and I mention it a lot too, but we rarely talk about what it actually is. So, could you talk a little about, what is the limbic system? Why is it a key player in managing chronic illness, and how do we work with it? What specifically do we do?
So the limbic system is a part of our brain that is a very, quote, primitive part. So think of this as a part that we've had for millennia. We've evolved with this part of our brain. And it's the part of our brain that is, it keeps us safe. It's always scanning for safety. And in prehistory times, it was amazing because it would keep people safe. People would be out gathering food and there'd be a rustle in the bushes. That limbic system would pick that up and then boom, we're out of there. And it would keep people safe. Now it functions the same way. It's to keep us safe, but we live in a whole different time now. We have a list of things to do that we're never going to get everything done. So that limbic system can get stressed out because we've got all these things to do rather than being able to say, it's okay, I can set that aside. And so it's focused on keeping us safe, which doesn't necessarily mean physically safe. It can also mean emotionally safe. And it can get stuck in a loop, kind of like a fire alarm. If you have a fire alarm in your kitchen, it might go off if the house is on fire, sure. But maybe it goes off when you have a little grease fire on the stove. Maybe if it's really, really sensitive, it goes off when there's a little bit of smoke. It's a little too sensitive. And so our limbic system, when we've had a lot of these different stressors in our life, can get a little too sensitive. And we can get into that fight or flight response. And that's where we can have that anxiety, that sometimes the moodiness, that fight or flight, stressed out type of response. And then a lot of people that I talk to are like, well, but I don't have anxiety. I'm exhausted. I can't get out of bed. That's not
Mm.
limbic. Well, what happens is when the limbic system has tried for so long to fight or flee, then it can go into a freeze where it's just like, I can't keep up anymore. I'm just going to shut down. And a lot of times, those who've had chronic illness for a while with chronic fatigue can be in that freeze response. So you've got a limbic system that's really kind of shut down and is just not, doesn't have the energy or the ability to move forward and do normal life type of things. It's not laziness, it's not procrastination. We can get really judgmental towards ourselves in a lot of those things. Really, it's just a nervous system that has been overly stressed and strung out and just needs to heal.
So I know that you now do coaching with
Mhm.
people and help people work through these various states and these stages, and that your coaching approach is centered around something you call compassionate self coaching,
Yes.
which I love the title of it. I'm very excited to hear what this is. So tell us, like, what is that, and how is it different from the other brain retraining methods that are out there?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Compassionate self coaching is amazing because so often we come to this work feeling like a failure. Um, we've been hard on ourselves. I know for me, I hated my body. I felt like it had let me down. Um,
Yeah.
I pushed and it's like, I've got to do better. I've got to keep up. It's my fault. I'm not doing enough. And when we have that type of self talk towards ourselves, we are keeping our own limbic system triggered. Our own nervous system hears those emotions, hears that self talk in the same way as if someone else was yelling it at us. And so, compassionate self coaching starts with compassionate awareness, looking at myself and being able to say, how am I doing right now? How am I doing emotionally? How am I doing physically? How am I doing mentally? And how am I doing relationally in the world around me? Being able to say, how am I doing right now from a place of compassion rather than judgment or criticism. And that right there, that can be a really big change. I know that that was for me, and I still work with that. I was up late with a sick kid last night, got a couple hours of sleep, woke up this morning, and I was like, I feel terrible. It's going to be a terrible day. It's all my fault. And we can just get really turning on ourselves, being able to, how am I doing here? In the same way we would talk to a good friend or a child. And then from compassionate awareness is self coaching. being able to look objectively, it's like, okay, what do I want? You know what? I want to have a great day today. I want to be able to connect with this client. I want to be able to enjoy that time with my kids. And okay, so that's what I want. How am I going to get there? Okay, well, I'm going to need to have a good meditation time. I'm going to need to, okay, what's my plan? And then the third part is self care. What's one thing I can do and put into practice right now? Might only be 2 minutes. It might be just taking 3 deep breaths, but really being practical about what can I do. And so we have that compassionate awareness and then self coaching, which is the big picture. Where do I want to go? How am I going to get there? And then self care, which is okay, now what is that practical one thing I can do right now? And it can just change everything short term, but then also when we do that consistently, long term, because it allows our nervous system to relax because we're releasing all of that judgment, all of that self criticism, and really honoring the body and the healing process that it wants to go through because the body wants to heal. And so when we can honor it and give it the tools to do that, then we're more likely to be able to get there.
Yeah. I love your emphasis on small, practical things that people can do in the moment because I think this can all sound a bit
Yeah.
abstract sometimes. Like, okay, yeah, sounds good in theory, but what does that mean for me
Yeah.
today? And I also, I know that you emphasize working with the limbic system instead of fighting against it. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, why is that important? And how can someone start doing that today?
Yeah. Yeah. And when our limbic system triggers, sometimes we can feel it. And I know there have been times mine has my limbic system has really triggered, and it's just like, ugh. And when we feel that, again, it's just easy to want to shut down and to get critical. Um, and being able to take these small steps allows us to start to calm that limbic system. I think a lot of times we come to neural retraining, and when our limbic system is triggered, we can think it has to be big, and so then we don't do anything. But when we can focus on these little things, whether it's again like just 3 deep breaths, um, if it's just to go sit outside, go pet the cat, these small things can really help to calm that limbic system.
Yeah, every person I talk to and in my own experience as well, it's been the small
Yeah.
things done repeatedly that
Yes.
deliver the results, and they don't feel like they could possibly be making that much of a difference, but it really does. It
Yes.
really is what turns things
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
does. And then not only just doing the small thing, but then I know I would catch myself, well, all I did was 3 breaths. Again, that judgment comes up. That's so natural. Being able to celebrate. You know what? That was good. That was good. I did what I could right there. And celebrating more the little steps that we do take.
So, if someone was interested in working with you or getting involved with you, what would that look like? Okay, like what resources do you have available? What options are
Mhm.
there?
Yeah. So I actually have a book out called Rewire Your Wellness. And it's a great place to start for people who want to get familiar with neural retraining. And it really looks at the idea of compassionate self-coaching for for all those areas. It looks at compassionate self-coaching for our emotional health. It looks at for our physical wellness, for our mental wellness, and for our relational wellness because they're all tied together. They all impact our thoughts, impact our limbic system, our relationships impact our thoughts. They all work together. And so I really go into that in my book of how to use compassionate self coaching. I also do one on one coaching, which I love. And then I have a group coaching program that I launch a couple times a year. So that'll be probably, I'm not sure, I may do it again before the year ends, or I may wait until January at this point. So we'll see. But I do have that. People can find all my information on my website. I also have a YouTube channel. I put out YouTube videos every week on different topics. And I'm always open if someone has a specific topic. I would love to hear that because I just am always looking for new things that people want to learn about to be able to do YouTube videos for.
I love this so much because everyone learns and thinks and prefers different
Yes.
ways. So if you want to sit back and read a book, if you're really craving that sense of community and people around you, you can do some group coaching.
Yeah.
The one-on-one, I would have loved that. I would have done anything for that when I was going through mine. And then, of course, just so many free resources through YouTube where people can just sit back and even just check it
Yeah.
out and be like, let's learn a little bit more. Is this for me?
Yeah, YouTube is wonderful. So I really have worked to build a really nice library in YouTube that people can learn quite a bit about neural retraining just from
Yeah.
that.
That's absolutely incredible. So I know a lot of people here are new to this and just finding resources for the first time, or maybe have been unwell for a long time and just feeling lost and understandably a little bit hopeless. So what would you say to those people that just feel like, man, I don't feel like I'm ever going to be able to shift this?
Yeah, I hear you. It takes a lot of courage to
Oh,
start this work, and it is definitely a leap of faith, but it is so worth it. There are so many different stories, healing stories online that can really give people inspiration and hope. I also, on my YouTube channel, I have a series of the 5 foundational principles of neural retraining. And it talks about what is neural retraining, how does it work, and then the five principles. So it really breaks it down and makes it very simple. It's not a overwhelming process. It's 5 simple steps. I say simple, but they do take work. They do take really putting in the heart and working through things, but it's not confusing. And that's a really great place to start so that they can get just a really good feel for it. And if I could say one other thing, it would just be just self compassion. Self compassion is amazing, and we don't realize how hard we are on ourselves as a culture. I think, especially for women, especially when we've had chronic illness, we can be incredibly hard on ourselves. And that self compassion allows that limbic system to come down. So, yeah,
amazing. And I think I can do this. I'll link up your YouTube channel here for
that would be
people.
great.
So after this video, if you want to go check it out, a lot of great stuff there. Yeah, really amazing. Lori, so happy that you've come through this and you are here where you are and doing so well. And now here available and supporting other people, so many people who need it. I'm so happy for you. Thank you for doing the work you do. And thank you for being
Oh, you're
here.
welcome. I feel so honored to be able to be a part of people's lives in this way.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. All right. Thanks again, Lori. Thanks to those of you watching, and hope to see you on Lori's channel, checking out some of these amazing free resources. Bye, everyone.